All right, so continuing where I left off on the last video, I think I got to 6. And we got our double distributive property here. So I'm looking at 6. And, 5 times 4 is obviously 20. But there's a handful of y'all that don't realize that x times x is x squared. Deal is, we have our understood ones. And when you talk about it's a property that is taught in Algebra 1, when you multiply like terms, you add their exponential space. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So anyways, this is again number 6. We have 20, and then we have an x squared. 5x times 2 is plus 10x. I saw several children just leave off the x and pretend it didn't exist. You need to fix that problem. Number 7 is going to be your double distributive property. You should be familiar with Algebra 1. I believe you guys were taught this FOIL technique. First, outer, inner, last. So first of both terms is x times x, which is x squared. Outside, x times negative 6 is minus 6x. And we have the I for inner, 3 times x plus 3x. And then we have this, 3 times negative 6, which is negative 18. And then we just combine terms, and we get x squared, what? Minus 3x minus 18. Now here's something you see sometimes that kids are taught. Primarily, I have seen it from my transfer students. I have, usually if they come from like Southeast Asia, that's where I tend to see this. What people will do is they'll just make a little box here. It's kind of interesting. We'll put x plus 3 along that column on the left, and then we'll put x and minus 6 here on that row on the top. And then we'll find out the products. X and x makes x squared. It's a nice visual is what it is. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. X times 3 is 3x. We're finding the product of terms. Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. And, when you put them together, that diagonal right there, you get a negative 3x. It's just a really nice visual. I got no issues with it. I think it's slower, but it works. And for some kids, they might need to see that. Moving on to 8. It's kind of the same as 7, but with bigger numbers. So we'll have 4 times 6, which is 24, x times x, which is x squared, 4 times 8, which is 32. Don't forget about the x. Negative 3 times 6, which is negative 18. Don't forget about the x. And negative 3 times 8, which is negative 24. Some of you guys are probably hindered by your ability to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I have no doubt that's an issue for some of y'all. It is. It's not supposed to be, but it is an issue. Anyways, 32 minus 18 is 14, always has been, always will be. All right, I only have one little function notation on the next one because it comes into play on number 11. So f of negative 3, this literally means let x equal negative 3. Like right there, that's going to become a negative 3. So f of negative 3 would be a negative 5 times a negative 3 add a 4. And you guys know that a negative times a negative is a positive. So this is 15 plus 4. And 15 and 4 sum to be 19. 10 is your slope. Your formula for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And forgive me, I am congested pretty bad. That's why I sound the way I do. It is what it is, though. Now we get our x1 and our y1 here, and we get our x2 and our y2 here, and we just plug some stuff in. Negative 12 minus 7 would be sitting pretty over 8 minus a negative 3. The only things I really noticed last quiz that I graded was we had issues taking away a negative from a negative, or we had issues adding, changing to positive. A couple of kids would get slope backwards. They do x over y. That just doesn't work. Just the usual problems that I've seen over my career. Nothing new, nothing special. Negative 12 minus 7 is negative 19. 8 taking away negative is addition, by the way. So 8 plus 3 is 11. And there's your answer. Negative 19 11ths, unless I screwed up somewhere. I don't think I did, Doesn't look like I did, so it looks good to me. This should actually be title number 11. Oh, that's just a duplicate. Let's get that out of there. Something's missing. Something is missing. Missing one here. That's basics 3 practice, right? Ah, there she is. That's what's missing. All right, so here is why I only put one small problem about plugging in things, numbers and stuff. It's because average rate of change is here, and it's a legit problem now. It's not a bonus. It is a legit problem. We have done average rate of change. You've had that instruction by now. So your formula for average rate of change is simply f of b minus f of a. Sitting pretty over b minus a, and you're going to get a and b from there. So we're going to plug those numbers in, and we're going to see what they create. So to find f of b, I'm plugging in a 2. It's 2 squared plus 2, which is going to be 6. And to find f of a, I am plugging in a -1. Notice I wrap that -1 in parentheses. Of course, you're not using calculators yet, but parentheses are a big deal. They really are. Because if you just type in -1 squared, your TI-84 says it's -1 because it is, because 1 squared is 1, there's a negative symbol out front. But when you wrap it in parentheses, what you're doing is you're squaring both terms. And that's why you get 1. So anyways, add 2, this is going to be 3. And I've got my numbers up here now. So f of b was 6. I'm taking away 3. And I'm sitting over 2, take away a -1. 6 minus 3 is 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. And this reduces down to the number 1. And now we move on to the bonus stuff. So here's your first bonus. Solve this for x. And we're going to use what's called the zero product property. I don't know that I have a formal lesson on this, on the zero product property, because it's a skill that you're taught in Algebra 1. But it says if the product of 2 or more terms is 0, then one or both must equal 0. That's a zero product property. And I have that. I have two things that when I multiply them together, I get a 0. So if I was in class, I'd just use my finger to cover things up. But I'm not in class right now. You can draw a little box over that. All right. And what it says here is it says 5x plus 13 is 0. Now I'm going to move that box. Put it right there. Or it says 2x minus 1/2 is 0. And that is the zero product property. And then you just do the algebra. We're going to take away 13. If we jump equality, our signs change. We're going to divide by 5, and there's an answer. -13/5. We're going to add a half. Then we're going to divide by 2. Now division happens in the denominator. Notice I did not write 1/2 over 2. I wrote 1/2 and put a 2 down in the denominator because division happens in the denominator. And 2 times 2 is 4. So x is 1/4. And those are your two x values on the first bonus. Second one's probably factoring. Who knows? It is. It's factoring. So we have ourselves what's called a trinomial, 3 terms. We call that a trinomial. And, 99 out of 100 times, if you see a trinomial, you do a double set of parentheses. I don't know how this one's going to factor, but I know that what goes here and here has to create 8x squared. And I could do something like 8x times x, or maybe 4x times 2x. And over here, this has to create that negative 15. And I could do 3 times 5 when I'm negative. I could do 1 and 15, and one of them negative. So you can see that on this particular problem, you have lots of options. Glancing at this one, I feel like I want to do 4x and 2x. But I've been factoring for a long time. I also want to use the factors 5 and 3. Placed like this. Now the reason I'm able to do that real quick is, for one, I know the double distributive property, and two, I'm good with numbers, and three, I've been factoring for way too many years. But guess and check makes you get quick at factoring. Now the outside is going to create a 20x, and the inside is going to create a 6x. And my goal, that's my goal, is a positive 14x. So I know that if I take away 6x from 20, I've got 14. So negative, positive. Full factorization of that one. Guess and check, 70% retention rate. If your parents don't know how to factor, it's because they weren't taught guess and check, or they didn't have to take algebra 2, which is not that uncommon. All right, given f of x is 2x squared plus 3x minus 4, find f of x plus h. This is kind of like plugging in a number. Like, you know, you do by and large, f of 2 means let x equal 2. You know that. So f of x plus h means replace every x with x plus h. That's all it means you do. That's going there and there. Those x's become x plus h. So I see an x, she becomes x plus h. Now that x has a 2 for an exponent. I see a 3, and then I see an x, and that x becomes x plus h. And then I see this take away 4. X plus h squared is the big one. There's going to be a lot of you kids who think you're smart, and you think it's x squared plus h squared, and you're dead wrong. Plain and simple, that is dead wrong. To square something, you have to multiply it by itself. So we're going to write it twice. I'm going to leave that 2 there. But to square something, write twice. It's probably worth writing down. To square, write twice. Now this is easy. That's the distributive property. And we're going to work on this x plus h times x plus h. We're just going to leave this 2 over here. I'm not going to worry about that 2 until I'm done. So I'm going to put my emphasis on this. And that is going to be the double distributive property. X times x is x squared. X times h is xh. X times h is xh. And an xh plus an xh is going to be 2xh. And then we have h times h, which is plus h squared. Then we have our plus 3x, plus 3h, and the minus 4. Now we're going to invoke the distributive property here. 2 times x squared is 2x squared. 2 times 2 is 4, so 4xh plus h squared plus 3x plus 3h minus 4. I don't see any like terms, so this thing is done. It's not pretty, but it's done. All right, there's basics 3 in her entirety now. If you got questions, man, just find me. That's all you gotta do. Find me. I'll help you. I will.